with the information age that we're in, and we've got access to a lot of the forbidden knowledge from the past that you had to kind of go on an extended journey to get access to, like the Freemasons or a lot of the sacred texts.
Yeah.
Brad and I have studied in depth, like the secret teachings of all ages, the science of getting rich, Think and Grow Rich. So a lot of those sacred texts as well. And there's a standout message amongst all of that literature, and it is that God is abundant and nature is abundant. And God wants us to express that abundance as a child of God so that he gets to experience, or that God gets to experience its abundance through us. And abundance comes in many forms.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we don't think we've got to sacrifice that abundance or suffer to represent God, because that's not what that text's saying. And if people are interpreting the text that way, I believe they're misinterpreting it. And there's lots of ways to interpret that text, right? But I feel like the true message from that is abundance. And that's what stepping into that is our God-given right. And that's what we're here to do. And there's no lack or limitation from nature. We're not going to run out of anything in nature, which is also like a scarcity separation mindset. If we run out of gold, as an example, we'll be able to make gold, or we'll find more gold on another planet. Like, it's just one example. It's not going to run out. We don't have to think that there's a limited supply.
Yes. There's
infinite amounts of abundance and energy everywhere.
When you were speaking, all I was seeing behind you was the Philosopher's Stone. It's on the screen right now. The alchemists knew. They knew thousands of years ago. And the alchemists were actually killed and tortured and put in jail cells because they knew that their energy, their intention could change the metals. They could change things into gold. And the Philosopher's Stone, I remember Teal Swan has the tattoo of the Philosopher's Stone on her arm. And when I was interviewing her, I asked her about the tattoo, and maybe somebody hadn't asked her for a long time. But she essentially said that, and I believe this to be true. This is my next question. When we set an intention for something, we can literally turn anything into anything. We can turn poverty into wealth. We can turn disease into full-scale vitality. We can go from genetic determinism to genetic liberation. But it's because we make that choice and then we educate ourselves. Has the Philosopher's Stone and that sacred technology informed mana in some way? I feel like it has. I feel like it's 100%,
there. Yeah. I mean, we spent a lot of time in Egypt, spent a lot of time in the Middle East, spent a lot of time reading literature about the Philosopher's Stone. And ultimately, the Philosopher's Stone is like the alchemy of ourself.
Yes.
From those denser frequencies into the frequency of light, which effectively means stepping into abundance and stepping into wholeness and stepping into greatness. And I believe actually we're the first generation where the idea of death may actually go away. So within the next 10, 20 years, we will more than likely solve illness and disease and aging with the help of AI.
Yeah.
And, that'll be an interesting evolution of abundance as well. Because once we don't die, it takes away like most people's greatest fear. Once we can make gold for like $20 an ounce, it takes away the greatest storage of value for humanity for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
And once we can manifest things from light into materialism, that's just going to be an interesting space to be in, because that is that abundance manifested in the material world. And it's coming. It's for thousands of years, it's just been an idea. And people have said, we don't have that opportunity to live forever. But our generation now is the first generation where that may actually take place. And if it's not our generation, it'll be the next one or the next one, but it's coming.
Yes.
Which is an interesting concept to think about, because everything changes at that point.
I love that you said our greatest fear is the fear of death, because that is actually behind almost every fight, almost every misunderstanding. It's, you didn't take out the trash, therefore you don't love me, therefore I'm going to die alone, therefore I'm afraid of death. I mean, I'm reductionizing, but that's essentially the fear of death is like, it's palpable for all of us. What do we have to be afraid of if we've lived the greatest possible life in our form of humanness, in our human body? There's nothing to be afraid of. Of course, you know, when I pass, I'll miss hugging my children. I'll miss talking with you guys. Maybe we'll talk in some other realm, but that's palpable. And so the fear of death or the fear of worthiness, I know you've dove into that personally. The fear of worthiness, I wonder below the fear of worthiness, was it connected to death? And if so, how have you began to transcend that yourself?
Yeah, I think you can outwork it as well, but then you can be addicted to outworking that, say, fear of death or that worthiness because you've done something successful. But I was just listening to that Philosopher's Stone, what you guys are talking about. It's just like the dualistic approach to life. It's like on one hand, it's life and that's death, right? And it's almost like we're getting trapped in the process of believing that death is necessarily bad. I think it's just a process of life.
Yeah.
But the worthiness part for me is like for years and years and years and years, I've had to work really hard at it. But it's just a story I've like told myself, which is not true. So if we get back to what we were saying before, it's like I'm enough just as I am. I don't have to do anything to be enough. But I think that's what drives a lot of successful people is, you know, not being good enough or not being worthy but I think it's just all a lie of the mind. And if we get back into that part, we talk about it often. It's like, if I get back into that part of abundance and put my intention and attention on that, because God necessarily doesn't want you to suffer for suffering's sake. You know what I mean? It just, it doesn't make any sense at all to be like that.
Yeah.
But it's devotion or discipline, those sort of attentions and intentions is really, really important. So I sit in that space now as like, I don't need anything to prove that I'm worthy because that's just buying into that the lack of. And that's like, we've read all those texts and been sitting in those, you know, that self-help space. It's like, well, that's just another part of that addiction process, right?
Yes.
You can just stay in that circle. And we know of a lot of people that stay in that, I'm just going to do one more ceremony.
Right.
I'm going to do one more like ayahuasca thing. It's like, do you really need to?
Yes.
It's like, are you just addicted to that whole process and it's familiar? So yeah, for me, just outworking it, knowing that I've got enough proof to say that I'm not unworthy is really important.
Essentially what the crux of the question is about identity transformation. You said we're in the golden age. Really what emotional epigenetics is understanding that we receive trauma, which is really just energy. It's just stuck bioenergy. And then we learn how to be an adult and be mature enough to let it pass through us so that we don't give it to our children. It's both the science and the spirit of understanding. Well, we don't have to actually know why this person did it or how they did it or when it happened. In other words, knowing is not the game. And I thought for so long, you guys, that knowing who did it, who was the traumatic person, and it's just completely not important. What's really important is just acknowledging that it happened. And then I can move through transformation very quickly. I mean, my life is a product of that. 10 years ago, addicted to pornography, didn't know anything really about smart supplementation, knew nothing about biophotons and light. Knew nothing about it. And the more open I am to just being in the version of myself as an identity transformation architect, as a father, as a steward of sacred technology, having amazing conversations like this that move people towards more light, it's just a story I'm telling to myself. And I don't want to lessen that story or say, look how easy it is, you guys. I've suffered a lot. I've learned how to transform myself. But identity transformation, I think right now in this golden age that you spoke about, is more easy and more open and accessible to every human being that's ever lived. I don't want to say that with too much gravity because I don't want to be too serious about it. I want to be playful with it. We are living in a time where AI and resources and supplementation and light are accessible whenever we want it. And it's never existed for our parents, for our grandparents. They just didn't have it. If you like that clip, click the one that's on the screen now, and I promise you, you'll enjoy it just the same, if not more.